Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys. Celtic Warband here, and welcome back to another battle in Napoleon Total War. In today's battle, a two-pronged invasion has been launched by Prussian and Russian forces into Sweden. Hoping for a swift victory, both armies sought to engage the Imperial Army of Sweden and annihilate it. However, the Swedish sent messengers to the French pleading for aid, and luckily for them, the French answered. The first army on the battlefield today is the Saviors of Sweden, the French, commanded by the Medier of Fayum, and I hope that's how you pronounce your name, man. If it's not, I do apologize, but Medier is the one who sent in the battle replay, and he also has a YouTube channel of his own, so feel free to check it out. Just copy the name from the army comps down in the bottom left corner, and you should be able to find his channel. But he's got a pretty solid Imperial force here for the French to save Sweden from certain disaster. He's got some cavalry here in the front lines, the Cheval Léger Lancé, the Chasseur Cheval, or Chasseur Cheval, I should say, the Carabiniers, and the Dragoons. These ones being the Pistolier cavalry, I believe. So that is interesting that he's brought a good mix of cavalry. He's got some Lancers, some heavy cavalry, the Dragoons, and also some ranged cavalry as well. We've got a couple units of Chassé right behind that, and 3 units of Fusiliers of the line. Over here we've got the General Staff, and we've got some Old Guard, some Young Guard, a 18th Regiment of Infantry, the Brave, and another Fusilier of the line. Right in front, another unit of Chassé. And then way over here on this far flank, he's got a very small detachment of a 6th Regiment Infantry Léger, a Fusilier of the line, and a Polish Legion. And that rounds out the army comps for the French, so let's go ahead and take a look at his ally. The next army on the battlefield today is Sweden, commanded by Leonidas.noob, and Leonidas has brought a lot of cavalry in this Swedish Imperial Army. He's brought, in fact, 9 units of cavalry, and they are all the mounted Jaeger units. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 units of cavalry. I'm just baffled. I've never seen this much cavalry in a Napoleon army, but we'll see how it plays out for him when the battle begins. We do have a general here as well, under Frederick Skjoldebrand, I hope is how you pronounce it. And then for his infantry, he's got 7 units of the main line infantry, and then 3 units of the Life Guards of Foot, which is a very solid line infantry unit for Sweden. And that rounds out the Swedish army, so let's go ahead and take a look at the enemies. The first enemy army on the battlefield today is Prussia, commanded by El Tito Jose, and he's also brought a lot of cavalry to the battlefield, albeit not as much as the Swedish player. He has 6 units total, and each of them are a different cavalry unit. He has a Lancer, a Brandenburg Uhlans, a Cuirassiers, or a Cuirassier, a Dragoon unit, a Hussar unit, and a Tawitzes, or a Tawitzes, I think is how you pronounce it. For his mainline infantry just behind here, he has 2 units of the Prussian Fusiliers, 6 units of main musketeers, 2 units of foot guards, and right behind that we have a general staff. A very compact, very balanced army for Prussia, so we'll see how that plays out on the battlefield as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the final enemy army. The final enemy army on the battlefield today is Russia, commanded by HS, and in the front lines he has 2 units of the Life Guard of Foot, and he has 1 unit of the Zemunovsky Life Guard. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. Right behind that, where his cavalry is, he has 4 units of the Cossack Cavalry. Love the uniforms on these guys too, very cool cavalry. For his line infantry, he's brought 7 units of musketeers, and he also has 4 units of Russian Jaegers as well. And the general is right at the back here. We have Count von Benningsen, who, interestingly enough, in my last Napoleon upload, he secured a glorious victory against the French. So let's see if he is as lucky today. Let's go ahead and get to the battle. Alright guys, welcome to the battlefield, and as you can see we have the Swedish cavalry and the Prussian cavalry being very aggressive and pushing heavily for the defensive hill in the center here. And look at that volley from the Swedish Jaegers as the Prussian cavalry storm on through. And this is a very large cavalry engagement that we have here on the battlefield. Probably 12 to 13 units of cavalry charging in to a bloody melee. Over here, we've also got a couple units of the, well, we've got the Taoises and the Hussars pushing heavily on the flank here. One unit of Swedish Jaegers is holding them back, and we've got another unit of Jaegers that will probably volley into the flanks of that Prussian cavalry. So at this point, it looks like the Swedish definitely have the upper hand here. A lot of the morale starting to drop here on the Prussian cavalry. But looks like HS, playing as the Russians, has brought a unit of Lifeguard foot up here, and he will probably put this into some, yes, there we go, into a square formation, and that will allow him to aid the beleaguered Prussian cavalry. But look at them start to break. You can see we've got the Taoises have broken. The Hussars are probably going to break soon with the Chevalier Lancé from the French over here, really pushing hard to aid all of the Swedish mounted Jaegers. There we go, more of the Lancers have broken, but surprisingly the Swedish are the ones to disengage. I think that is a smart decision given the fact we have this very potent infantry unit here in square formation, and we do have French infantry arriving as well, so save that cavalry. But we've actually got we've got a French cavalry unit over here that's going to charge into the Prussian general. I don't think the Prussian general is aware of this. That is really unfortunate, and it looks like there is no cavalry or infantry nearby that will save him. Oh no, that is not good. If the Prussians lose their general early on in this battle, that could really kind of set the stage for who will be victors in this battle. And I'm watching the Prussian general very closely. He's the one with the the plume, I guess you could say, on his uniformed hat there. I don't know what the technical term is for that hat. I really should know, but yeah, his bodyguard is being cut down. It looks like the French dragoons are starting to fall, though, as well. There we go. We've got a bit of dueling with the Prussian general himself. Will he fall on this battlefield? Yes, he will! Oh no! That is bad news if you guys are rooting for the Prussian-Russian alliance. This Dragoon unit successfully assassinating the general of the Prussians, and that is going to spell a bit of doom here for this very defensive formation that the Prussians have set up. They didn't even conquer the high ground either. They should really be moving forwards to help the Russians on this hilltop. We've actually got a lot of Russian cavalry, 2 units of Cossacks, in fact, that did charge into the Polish Legion. They're now turning around to charge the Lifeguard of foot. That is kind of a mistake, I think. Would have been better to maybe disengage them because the Swedish are going to break the Cossacks here. Very unfortunate, but the Russians still should have 2... No way! He actually got the Russian general as well! Count von Benningsen, no! Thankfully, it looks like one of the broken units of Prussian cavalry, the Brandenburg Uhlans, are here to maybe save Count von Benningsen from a death. The French dragoons are quite depleted. They're down to 24, and thankfully, the Russian player had 2 units of musketeers held in reserve, so it looks like the Russian general will just escape death, but by a knife's edge, and the French dragoons there being driven away by the Brandenburg Uhlans. So Count von Benningsen definitely has the Prussians to thank for saving his life. Now, I really want to focus on this, though, so it's very even, it looks like. We've got 3 units of Swedish here. We've got 2 units, actually, of Russian units charging down the slopes into a line infantry unit here from Sweden. We've got the Lifeguards of foot. Oh, he's actually going to line them up and fire down into their flanks. That's an excellent idea. 2 other Swedish units moving in to help the French push the Prussians off this hilltop. We've got the French-Polish Legion here engaged against just a basic Prussian musketeer unit. This unit of Fusiliers of the line is having a really tough time, though. We've got the Prussian Fusiliers in loose formation here, really starting to destroy the French resistance on this hilltop. However, they have a very staunch defense here in the forest. They've got some chassé here, and then they've kind of got a bit of a 45-degree defense going on. They've got the Old Guard on this flank, more chassé. We've got the 18th Regiment of the Brave and a Fusilier of the line. So they're really kind of forcing the Prussians to take a very defensive formation, even forming up between these two towns here, or sorry, these two buildings. I do want to focus on what's going on over here, though. Do the Swedish have a good shot? Yes, they do, and that's the Zvenomosky Lifeguard unit. That's the elite Russian Lifeguard unit that was being destroyed there. I think, yeah, they're down to 44. The Swedish line infantry down to 60, so very, very even. Oh my goodness, a suicide charge here by that Swedish Jaeger unit. The Russians, no mercy there, just annihilating them before they even came close. I think they were going for a charge against all of these Russian Jaegers, but very few of them actually returning to friendly lines. Wow, wow, wow. What do we have in reserve? So we've got the Swedish general, who's very close by. We've, where's the French general? I'm hoping that the Cossacks don't commit an assassination against the French there in retribution for what they tried against Count von Benningsen. In fact, where is the Cossacks? I think they're over here. Yes, they've got 2 units of Russian cavalry remaining on the battlefield. However, the Swedish have quite a bit. They've got 6 units here. No, 5 units of cavalry. And I think the French might be all out. However, it's 5 cavalry units versus 2. So the Russian player is definitely going to have to be a bit crafty here. Now, it looks like, interestingly, the 2 units of foot guards that the Prussians have, they are actually going for a very wide flanking maneuver, maybe trying to get around the French lines and begin volleying them in the back. So let's see if the French player actually notices that, because he's really focused, he's turned in almost his line, focusing the musketeers, but actually good battlefield awareness there from the French player, noticing right away. However, is that going to be enough? 1 Fusilier of the line unit against 2 foot guards. I mean, it depends on if he's going to be able to get a bunch of volleys off on them as they are setting up, like that volley there. Yeah, we do have the foot guards forming up there. Let's watch the French as well. Get a little zoomed in line battle. There we go. So yeah, I think this is only a deterrent for a short time, but looks like French reinforcements have arrived, and he is bringing in the Young Guard and the 18th Regiment, the Brave, to handle these 2 foot guard units. And this one's already down to 114. Ooh. Not good for the poor Prussians at this point. A lot of their units are starting to break, and even their whole line is beginning to just disengage. The Russians are having to send reinforcements over to their flank. The Swedish have really tucked in, though, over here. They're moving most of their forces up onto this hilltop. However, interestingly enough, we have a huge detachment of Russian forces that have moved through this forest undetected from the Russian lines to behind the Swedish lines. And are they not going to notice this? We've got at least 4 units, yeah, 4 units of Russian Jaegers and 2 musketeers, maybe? And we've got the Brandenburg Uhlans actually fighting a unit of Carabiniers. Goodness, I cannot say that word. Carabiniers, I think is how you pronounce it. So the French do have a cavalry unit left, but I don't know if they're going to be able to handle all of these Russian troops. So let's actually turn on the mini-map so you guys can see what is going on as well. So you can see here where we've got a very close collection of the Swedish and French forces on this hilltop here. And then the Russians really flanking wide. I'm so interested to see what happens there, but it looks like he is still setting up. So let's focus on what else is going on this battlefield. The Russians have brought some musketeers forwards in defense of their comrades. And I'm hearing some melee sounds, am I not? Were they fighting anything in melee? I don't know. Oh, maybe one of the units of foot guards actually went into melee against the Young Guard, but lost quite considerably. And the French have moved forwards their chassé. They put them in loose formation and have begun a non-stopping volley on the light infantry. And actually, there's a unit of Silesian Schützen here. I did not notice this unit during the army comm, so it was probably hidden from view. But things have calmed down quite a lot now, and the Russians still forming up over here, and no reaction from the Swedish whatsoever at this point. What do we got going? Okay, so we got a unit of the Carabiniers actually hitting the Cossack cavalry. One of them has broken from the battlefield. Really? I would have thought that the Cossack cavalry with the charge would have broken the Carabiniers. Me trying to pronounce a French word like that and actually sounding like I have a Spanish accent too. How does that work? But yeah, looks like the Cossack cavalry is just trying to disengage from that fight and leave the Carabiniers alone. And the Russian Jaegers still forming up here. I don't know what is going on here. The Swedish player has just kind of got all of his troops over here. I don't know if he's trying to hide them all in the trees or something, if that's what he's doing. He's got some mounted Jaeger behind the line infantry here. One unit of Russian Jaegers is holding back pretty much the entirety of the Swedish army at this point. Okay, I'm seeing some movement. Okay, so finally he's noticed, hey, there's like several hundred Russians behind us. We should probably do something about that. But it is too little too late. The Russian Jaegers are already formed up and have begun their volleys on the Swedish line infantry here. And from a very forested position here too, so I don't know if that gives them any bonuses or not. But the line infantry are starting to suffer here. And look at this, well done by HS. Immediately as this unit of Swedish infantry turns around to face the Russian Jaegers, we've actually got a unit of Russian line infantry closing very quickly from the flank. And now the Swedish line infantry unit is going to be fired upon on two different sides. The Swedish player has noticed that, and he is going to form up and face the line infantry now. I guess he deems them the larger threat, and is just going to ignore the Russian Jaegers. However, the Russian Jaegers are going to cause major casualties for the Swedish there. And now the Swedish player is actually forced to fight on two flanks. You can see that he's lining this lifeguard of foot up to deal with the musketeers. It has returned his line infantry around to again focus the Jaegers. Very, very interesting battle here. Why doesn't he use, like, he's got a Swedish line infantry right here that could fire into their flank, but I guess he's worried about exposing himself more to the Russian Jaegers. However, the poor Prussian defense here has just been obliterated. We've got, looks like the final foot guard unit here fighting in melee with, what is this, the Brave Regiment. Oh, I'm sorry, Prussians, I am sorry. And that is the best Prussian unit starting to break from the battlefield. And yeah, it's not looking good over here. The balance of power is still quite even, though. We actually do have still a very bloody battle here on the top of this hill. We've actually got the Lifeguard foot challenging the Lifeguards of foot from Sweden. That's actually a pretty good matchup here. I'd like to zoom in and maybe see a bit of this battle. Very intense melee ensuing here. Now, did they break? Yes, they routed from the battlefield. And we've got the French over here, Fusiliers of the line, focusing the Musketeers. We've got some mounted Jaegers that were kind of harassing them. Musketeers are not going to be able to fight on all flanks, and very smartly, HS is going to withdraw that unit and just give the hill to the Swedish and the French. Now, how are things going over here? We did get a bit of a charge off on the 17th Jaeger Regiment. Is it going to be enough to break them, though? We do have the Musketeers right here, and they do fend off the cavalry of Sweden. And there we go, forming up into a square formation to fight the Polish Legion. And the Swedish are finally starting to push back. The Russians are giving ground here. The Carabiniers is back once again. Cossack cavalry trying to deal with them as well. You would think that this unit here would be able to volley on the French cavalry, but maybe they cannot do that while they're engaged in melee against the Polish Legion. There we go. Now they should be able to do something, and that has just saved the Russian Cossack cavalry from that French cavalry. So we've got 4 or 5 units over here, but I think this is inevitably a failed attempt at a flank. Looks like the Swedish are just going to be able to hold, and now the Russians are starting to look a little thin over here. There are a lot of French still on the battlefield, as you can see. We've got Fusiliers of the line being redeployed over to this side to mop up all of the Russian resistance that does remain. However, they are pretty much backed up against the battlefield here. And I think the French could pretty much move in at this point and just put the final nail in the coffin of the Prussian military defense here. They've got just 2 depleted units of Fusiliers, well, the Sicilian Schützen and the Fusiliers, and we've got 3 depleted units of Musketeers. He does have a few units over here, though. 2 units of Musketeers. I don't think it's a good idea to continue pushing this this point in the center, though. I think that the Swedish and the French have too much numbers at this point to really justify wasting your infantry, funneling them into this choke point. But just like that, action-packed from the beginning, and then an eerie silence with not much going on. Very eerie indeed. I think the Swedish should just push forwards and just destroy these units so that they can redeploy the rest of their units to face the front lines. However, the Swedish are forming up here with their line infantry. I believe this is a lifeguard of foot here, a very elite infantry unit still on the battlefield, ready to go after the Russian line infantry. And why am I hearing some cavalry charging? Oh no! It looks like the Musketeers did try and go and take the hill. And a huge charge from the Swedish cavalry and a counter charge from the Fusiliers of the line. Oh, they might just hold, though. This Fusilier of the line unit is only 40 men. The Musketeers still have 116 in the unit. And it looks like they are going to get away with it, but not if the French general has anything to say about it. It looks like he is going to charge on in. Yes, he is. Oh, my goodness. Very ballsy move from the French player here. And he's actually going to get into melee here with this Prussian unit. There we go, finally pushing in. Or maybe he's not. What is he doing? I know he's trying to rally, I guess, the unit of Fusiliers to the line. But he probably could charge in here. We've actually got the mounted Jaegers moving in and the Swedish general, so it's a combined general charge. That's what he was waiting for. That is epic. General and general charging together to mop up these Prussians, and once again they are driven from the hilltop. So many Prussian and Russian lives have been lost trying to push for this hilltop here. The French player is still the French general is still engaged here, and the Swedish general's kind of just like, see you later. Thankfully, he did send back in the mounted Jaegers there to make sure that unit broke. Otherwise, the French general could have been in a bit of trouble there. And even more withdrawing from the Prussians and Russians on this flank. I think they're just pulling back for their final stand. I doubt that, as I said, these Russians are going to be able to do anything. In fact, I may even consider like moving them back around and having them join the main Russian infantry line. But it looks like we do have Sweden advancing, and we have some French forces, 2 healthy Fusilier of the line units here as well to reinforce. And it looks like we do have the first volleys being shot from the Musketeer unit, but then he is going to disengage at this point. So I don't know if there's anything that's going to happen for the next couple of minutes as they just deploy and redeploy. So let's make a little cut here, and we'll bring it back to you for the Prussian and Russian final stand. Alright guys, welcome back, and it looks like the French have finally been dragged from the tree line. There was quite a lull in the battle where not much really happened at all. The Prussians and the Russians actually withdrew to this tree line here, and they held there. And there was a bit of back and forth with the Silesian Schützen over here, because they do have superior range, just kind of volleying the Swedish line infantry and then trying to bait them forwards, but the Swedish would push units forwards, the Sicilian Schützen would retreat, and then the Swedish would retreat back to the safety of their hilltop. But it looks like we do have some Prussian units bursting out of the trees here, trying to go after the French, but this is ultimately a suicide mission. You can see the very healthy line infantry just charging on in, and that will be the end of that Prussian unit, which is very unfortunate. It is a very noble attempt at breaking free. Who knows, maybe they were actually trying to break through the French lines and escape the battlefield, and it wasn't a noble feat after all. We've got some light infantry over here. It looks like the Swedish Jaegers are trying to charge on through. Surprisingly, the Prussians do not form any type of square formation, and the Jaegers are able to get into a bit of a melee, but unfortunately they're so depleted from that cavalry engagement at the beginning of the battle that they're easily shrugged off. This little unit over here, HS, has done so well at actually just destroying small French units as they try to come off the hilltop, but it looks like this is finally going to be the end of that lifeguard foot for Russia. The French finally getting retribution for all of their dead comrades. Now, we do have a renewed or reinvigorated attack here with the Russian Jaegers, but again, the line infantry just getting into range and really cutting them down. So not much that the Russians can do, and actually some of them are shattering from the battlefield as we speak. But now it's pretty much GG for the Prussians. Now they are forced into a line battle, and even with the Russian support here, the Russians know that there is no hope, and they're just going to charge on into a very bloody melee. And there we go. Let's actually zoom on in here and watch some of this melee happen. Oh, and I paused it. My apologies, guys. My apologies. Come on, you can see the French in the distance as well. I don't know if they're fighting more Russian units over there, but the Russians are not going to die this way. They're not going to die at the hands of the French bullets. They're going to die in melee. And yes, it looks like they are just about to break. We've got more. We've got the old guard actually charging into the backs of that musketeer unit. And as that Russian unit is surrounded, the rest of the Prussian forces just begin their retreat. Poor Count von Benningsen, so successful against the French in the last battle, but being let down by the Prussians in this battle. And this is totally just kind of feeding the storyline. The Prussian player played the best that he could. It was just very unfortunate that he lost his general that early on, and I think it did kind of play out in his strategy moving forwards, being very, very defensive. A lot of his units not having that morale from the general being on the battlefield, and of course they broke more quickly than the French and the Swedish, but he definitely gave it his all. So well done to all four players here. Some very interesting battles, or very interesting strategy on this battlefield, I should say. The Swedish still holding very tightly to this tree line here. He's being very defensive, given the fact he has like 6 units here just sitting there doing nothing. And even still here, withdrawing his line infantry when he probably could handle this depleted Prussian Fusilier unit in melee. And the French are now kind of just steamrolling on through. So the French being very aggressive, whereas the Swedish being very passive in this battle. Especially late in this battle, he definitely has the advantage. He should just push and destroy the remaining Russian units here. But, I mean, even without the help of the Swedish line infantry, it still looks like the French will secure a victory. I mean, we've got the Fusiliers of the line on the battlefield. We've got the Old Guard here. Some Chassé Fusiliers of the line. We did have the Young Guard as well somewhere. That's some Chassé that returned from routing. I don't know where the Young Guard is. Maybe they did actually get defeated. We've got the Brave still left. But yeah, the Old Guard going very heavily on the flank. I'm not sure if they are going to assassinate Count von Benningsen. Maybe not. Oh, they noticed that there was a fresh musketeer unit there. And we've also got a unit of Cossack cavalry moving forwards as well. And the Russians, they're going to form square for some reason. Oh, I guess it's because the Fusiliers of the Line for France also form square. So now they're going to actually go into the Swedish line infantry. It doesn't look like he's going to form square in time. Oh my goodness, just in a nick of time, forming that square, managing to throw the Cossack cavalry back. Couldn't have been closer in forming square there. And finally, the Swedish have been coaxed from their little forest. They remind me of elves, like they don't want to leave their forest. They're like, it's safe here. He's leaving like a couple of units, I guess, to guard his flank as the Russians move forwards. In fact, those 2 units are probably hidden, and that's what he was probably trying to do now that I'm thinking about it. He had hid his troops in the trees and was hoping to maybe bait the Russians forwards. But the Russians are just going to charge into the realm of Lothlari, and hopefully the blue elves will be able to hold against the onslaught of orcs, I mean Russians. There we go. A huge melee ensuing in this tree line here. Let's actually see if we can get a good shot as we kind of know which way the battle is going at this point. Balance of power is pretty in favor of the French and the Swedish. But the Russians going out in a blaze of glory, fighting in melee. Nice, nice, nice. So it was a good idea to flank with those units, but unfortunately it just didn't have the traction it needed to take off. For a minute I was really worried that the Swedish player was going to get caught in the center, but that was not the case. And there we go, the Swedish just powering through. Look at all the infantry that he had remaining. Crazy, crazy amount. And where is Count von Benningsen? Where is he? Where's von Benningsen? He may have already been broken from the battlefield. I'm not 100% sure. Can't see his flag anywhere. And the Swedish general has finally broke cover as well. He's going to run down the Russian Jaegers in retribution for all of the Swedish that died at their hands. Well done to all 4 players here. And such an interesting Napoleon battle with all of that cavalry. All of that cavalry really, really playing out in the very first few minutes of this battle. You could see so much of the cavalry just dead in this small area. As I said, it was probably 12 to 14 units of cavalry and probably 3 or 4 units of infantry within the first minute or 2 of the battle that were fighting very heavily on this little hilltop. French general is here. I guess the Russian general must have fallen already. Although we haven't gotten a notification for that yet, so... Oh, is this him here? No, it's the mounted Jaegers running down some musketeers. Oh, well, I'm going to imagine that Count von Benningsen escaped the battlefield. Got Russian musketeers forming square. The French general was about to charge in there and then decided not to at the last minute. Actually, the French general needs to get out of there. Yeah, that was almost a kill on the French general by the Russians. And he almost ran through the stakes as well. And they killed the general. So where was that? Where was HS's general? Ah, he was over here. Okay, so he was hiding at the very back. But an epic, epic battle, guys. I hope you did enjoy. And there is Medvedev Fayem. If you're watching, man, I really hope that's how you pronounce your name. But as I said, he was the one who sent in the battle replay. And he has a YouTube channel of his own, so please feel free to check him out. Let's take a look at the unit statistics here for the French. So, oh, and you know what was weird, too, about this battle is we had 0 artillery on the battlefield. I think that's the first Napoleon replay I've had where there was no artillery present. But yeah, Young Guard 105, Polish Legion, yeah, Old Guard 160, I think that's the highest, 133 from the Fusiliers of the Line. and the Brave getting 139 kills as well. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one.